Hello there, Common Wolf Rum here, and I have played The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom on the Nintendo Switch 2. Not only that, we've done proper comparisons between the screens of the OLED and the Nintendo Switch 2 while playing Breath of the Wild. So, to not miss anything, and also show appreciation for this proper preview, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe and press the notification bell. So, how is Zelda on the Nintendo Switch 2? In one word, spectacular. But when it comes to its visual performance, that being on the TV in high resolution and of course 60 frames per second. It was very visible while playing in Korok Forest, where I of course had to load straight into. And yes, the loading times are significantly cut down. It feels like you are not waiting any longer to enter Hyrule or to move from place to place. It is that instant. It's very close to what we're used to with loading times on systems like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series with their SSDs. The new Express cards and also the built-in 256GB memory or hard drive really shows its power with The Legend of Zelda, and it really puts a lot of promise for the next brand new The Legend of Zelda games that will be coming out on the Nintendo Switch 2, including Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment this winter, so maybe later on this year or in early 2026. Yes, the trailer of that game was running during the Nintendo Switch 2 experience in London, but we didn't get to try Age of Imprisonment. That is still much further away. The game is still under development, but we got to really test out The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The focus here was really on seeing the frame rate, the loading times, but also seeing how well it translates to a high resolution, which I would say is definitely one of the bigger upgrades when it comes to Zelda on the Nintendo Switch 2. It is the same game after all in the case of Breath of the Wild, and unfortunately, yes, I did check, it does not include the paid expansion, that being the 2 DLC packs, the Master Trials and the Champion's Ballad. That has to be purchased separately, which I'm gonna be honest, I think is a mistake. I think seriously that it should have been a part of the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack upgrade or the base price upgrade for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of that game. I really think that is just not something to be happy about, since the DLC will also be pretty much 7.5 years old at the point when we'll be able to start playing on the launch day of the Nintendo Switch 2. But apart from that, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch 2 just runs so smooth. It feels like a completely new enhanced game, and it plays great with the new Pro Controller. Yes, I did play it with the Pro Controller on the TV. There was also a possibility to play it undocked with the system itself, something that we also did, but mostly just to test and see the difference between the new LCD HDR display and the current Nintendo Switch OLED display. And what I can say is that it is pretty much equal. The OLED has been kind of diminished thanks to the HDR and thanks to 1080p, the new resolution of the new 8-inch screen. It's bigger, it has high resolution, and it has HDR technology, which is of course not present on any of the Nintendo Switch family of system members. I don't think it really matters that the system is not OLED, and in the case of Zelda, I would say it looks pretty much the same, maybe even a little bit better, mainly thanks to the fact that Zelda is running in 60 frames per second. And the fact that you can do these kind of things, and that also, as Zeltic pointed out, there's no limitations to the Breath of the Wild version that we know and love from the Switch, including with bomb surfing, I think that really puts emphasis on the fact that this is a game that Nintendo has not wanted to limit in the slightest for the Nintendo Switch 2, but also not offering too much more apart from the graphical upgrades. Of course, you have Zelda Notes with all of its additional features, like the lore being shared, or additional lore being shared by Princess Zelda in the case of Breath of the Wild, even more in the case of additional characters for the different layers in the case of Tears of the Kingdom, as we'll soon get back to. But yes, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch 2 is truly amazing. It is the game that performance-wise we wished we had on a Nintendo Switch, but of course due to system limitations couldn't have. I would say get a Nintendo Switch 2 just to play Breath of the Wild in frame rate and resolution that it really deserves to be played at. And the same can in many ways be said about Tears of the Kingdom, because that version of the game is what it should have been in the first place. Very low loading times when loading between the different layers, that being, I did test this myself by loading from the open depths up to the Sky Islands and also doing it from long distances between it, so you would have to load that area. Loading speeds are pretty much history when it comes to 3D Zelda, at least in this case, and I really think that this is very promising for the next, both top-down, but also when it comes to the next open-air Zelda game that will be coming out sometime after the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. But yes, Tears of the Kingdom on the Nintendo Switch 2. Of course, we never had DLC for that game, so there's no controversy involved with this version. Quite contrary, I would say it's just an upgrade through and through. Both when it comes to undocked play, where we have 1080p, 60 frames per second, HDR, which really shows it is a very well optimized game, and combine that with Zelda nodes on the Nintendo Switch app. The former Nintendo Switch Online app will just add extra lore layer on the surface, of course, from Princess Zelda, in the Sky Islands by King Raru, and of course in the depths by the chief of the depths, at least after falling down there, that being Master Kogo, of course. And seeing that Zelda alone has 150 nodes here, it is very promising. And the fact that we can also share auto build, unfortunately, of course, we're not able to try Zelda nodes, but we know that we'll be able to share auto build sets, so we'll finally be able to do those crazy builds that we have wanted to try out for a very, very long time. The same goes with the daily bonuses, which will add a reason to return back to these games. But of course, the real star here is the docked play. With the new Pro Controller, as I've now talked a lot about, but yes, this controller is amazing. And what's more is that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom really needs to be played in 60 frames per second. It really needs to be played in high resolution than 1080p. Yes, we didn't get any confirmation of 4K. I asked several attendees there, and I tried to do the same trick with Nintendo Switch Online GameCube as the Switch Online section that is exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2. You don't feel anymore the slowdowns that we used to on the Nintendo Switch, and couple that with Zelda nodes, you have pretty much free DLC, especially since Zelda nodes is included and doesn't require even a Nintendo Switch Online paid subscription. It is a part of the app and can be played offline, of course, because Switch Online would limit that experience. But yes, this is all great upgrades, and I can't wait to play it fully on the launch day of the Nintendo Switch 2, that being Thursday, June 5th. It is the Zelda that we definitely have deserved, and the same can be said in the case of Wind Waker on GameCube Switch Online, where I got to try a little bit of the section on Outset Island. It was set to that. We were not able to do any sailings, but I got to some piglets angry and get attacked by them as well, to the point that I got a game over. But the game flows very well. Of course, it's not properly on widescreen since it is the GameCube version, so yes, you have the advantage of the proper level of coloring, so not the overexposed bloom that we have in Wind Waker HD. But I'm not gonna lie, I really hope still that we'll get Wind Waker HD upgraded to 4K at some point during the Nintendo Switch 2's life cycle. Just like I don't want to see Twilight Princess limited on the system to GameCube Switch Online and with the limitations that provides. Yeah, that's in many ways Zelda. I also got to try the Ocarina of Time Link, or the Hero of Time, in Soul Calibur, the classic from GameCube, and it looks absolutely beautiful. I think it's a game that definitely Zelda fans should also try out. But yeah, that's pretty much my impressions. The undocked experience looks great. It's on the level of the OLED thanks to HDR and 1080p. Loading times are pretty much a thing of the past, and what's more, the resolution is well above 1080p and in 60 frames per second. But yeah, most likely it is an upscale 4K, as it has been indicated in the case of Breath of the Wild since Gamescom 2023. And what's more, it is the Zelda that we all want, and brings a lot of potential for the fact that we have Age of Imprisonment coming out, and we'll get proper story conclusion, most likely, of at least a distant past when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I really hope that that game will be running in proper 60 frames per second, and who knows, maybe even 4K. But yeah, I want to see your thoughts on my impressions of The Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Switch 2. And as always, to make this video more visible, leave a like, subscribe, and press that notification bell. Along with, of course, sharing your opinions in the comment section down below. As always, a big thanks to all of you for watching until the very end, and to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons. Special shoutouts go to Raw Producer, JC Funk, and Heroes, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintaro. You all rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.